question. And just to say, just before we start, that in Shankar, almost any project we do has some kind of relation to material. Sometimes it's the origin of the idea. Sometimes it's a mean to solve a problem. Sometimes it's also just, I would say, another cultural level that adds to the project and makes it much more significant. So therefore, I find this kind of meeting and opportunity very relevant to our on-day work and our research in this in our academy. And I'm passing you the microphone, Michael.
Thank you so much. And yes, appreciate the warm introduction. My name is Michael Isserlis, Senior Director of Sales here with Material ConneXion. Super excited to meet you all. And for those of you who perhaps aren't familiar with Material ConneXion, and maybe this is your first exposure to the company, you know, where we bring value to our subscribers is in our past 25 years, we've been curating the world's leading sustainable and innovative materials libraries. So the materials that you're going to find on our platform, these are not the most commonly used, basic, cheapest materials, but really looking at the intersection of innovation and sustainability. So brand new technologies that have never existed before, that have recently become commercialized, that allows our subscribers to bring new levels of performance and new aesthetics to their designs, as well as sustainable alternatives to some of the more traditionally used materials. And then thinking about, you know, some of our professional subscribers that access the platform, it's really a broad range in the who's who of consumer-facing brands. We help these brands anywhere from their product development, we help them in packaging, we help them in retail store designs. We work with hospitality companies, typically on the higher end for like hotel design, interior designs, residential interior designs. We have some clients that are in the private aircraft industry. We recently signed up an agreement with Vast Space for they're making pods that are going to go into orbit, and essentially they're going to work with us on finding new materials for interiors and their uniforms, which is a really exciting project for us. We've done work with like Embraer and other, you know, aeronautic companies. So really, I always say anybody who's making a physical product or is interested in physical materials can benefit from the MCX library. On the academic side, you know, we work with some of the world's leading design schools here in New York. You know, we're basically trying to, you know, band the gates from like Parsons, FIT, it was the Pratt Institute, you know, all these different design schools in New York City are coming to our physical in-person library, but they also have access to the digital version as well. And thinking about the physical spaces, you know, we have our headquarters here in New York City. However, we also have locations all around the globe in Thailand, South Korea. We have a location in Milan, Italy, one in Sweden. And every single month, we update the database with brand new materials that we're able to identify from all around the globe, thanks in part to these global partners and offices that we have. So if you have students or faculty traveling and they want to visit any one of these locations, and we certainly love to have you. If you're coming to New York, always shoot me an email and we can schedule for you a time to come and see samples in person as well, which is a super, you know, exciting and interesting thing. Couple of different ways we work with some clients of ours, you know, on the professional side. You know, we're not just the Material Insights library where we certainly have our trend reports and database of materials. We also do consulting work with a lot of these brands. So companies like Chanel, Adidas, Nike, they can come to us and have like a very specific challenge, or maybe they're looking at a more macro, you know, theme, interested in a landscape of materials. Perhaps they're looking at in development technologies and they want to know all about what they can find. You know, we can work with them on a project by project basis as well to help introduce them to materials beyond the database. You know, certainly the database, tremendous starting point for our subscribers, but some subscribers and some clients need a little bit more hand holding and a little more detailed research on their behalf, and we're happy to offer that to them as well. So to get started with Material ConneXion, for those of you, where's the chat? I want to put a link in the chat. If you have not yet been to our website, it's pretty simple, materialconnexion.com. And if you're online through the school, you will be able to access the site, the database directly through that IP network. One thing I'd spoken with Worley about, to access the Insights tab where we have the trend reports, recaps of global trade shows, that's where you would have to create an account. And I did set it up with our IT team where you don't need to necessarily have a school email domain to create an account in this manner. And we'll show you how to do that in just a second. So if you come into the site, you click database, it's going to automatically launch the database. I want to just review really quickly to recreate an account here, because if you want to access the insights side of the site, you would need to click sign in. From here, you'll click register right in the middle of the screen. And then from the registration page, you're going to want to use your school email address under the business email. If you don't have a shankar.ac.il email address, it's okay. All you need to do is put your first name, last name at shankar.ac.il, and then you'll create a password and hit continue. Now, the purpose of this is for you to access the other side of the site beyond the database, which is the insights side. That does require a quick registration, but with that account login that you're going to create on this side, you would be able to also access the database directly from any off-campus locations as well. So that does allow you the ability to kind of navigate into the site from anywhere in the world instead of just going in through your existing IP network. And I hope that makes sense. So you'll put first name, last name, again, your email address with that at shankar.ac.il, create your password, hit continue. It's going to ask you if you're student or faculty. If you're faculty, certainly you can select faculty. If you're a student, you can select student. It's going to ask you for address and phone number. You can make up your address. We're not going to send you any mail. You can certainly put your own phone number in if you like, but certainly no one's going to call you either. And then ultimately, once you're all registered, it's going to bring you into the database. And when you're in the database, here you're going to find really over 10,000 materials across all industries that we're working with. And one thing always comes up at these moments, or people will ask, how do these materials come to Material ConneXion? And it's really a multi-pronged approach. We have researchers in each of those global locations we were looking at before, each one doing research into their local markets, trying to find who are the latest materials that are being commercialized. We have our team going to global material shows, and I can show you a few recaps of those as well in just a minute, constantly on the hunt for new materials. We have manufacturers who are submitting materials to us directly each and every month. They want to get in front of our clients that we saw that list a moment ago. They want to get in front of those brands when they're making their next level product decisions. So they submit to us directly. And then, certainly in our consulting work that I had touched on, we are uncovering new materials every single day. And every time we find a new material, it doesn't mean it automatically comes into the database. We do need the suppliers to agree to be listed. They do not pay us anything to be here. We're not brokers of materials, so we don't get a commission of the sale of any of these 10,000 materials. But what we do ask of them is samples. So that way we can put them in the library. I'm here in the library, my screen is blurred at the moment. We ask them for samples so that way we can display materials as they're coming into the library and give our clients who are able to visit us in New York the ability to see samples in person. We have them all mounted on these boards. Apologies for my blurred background at the moment. In terms of what we're looking for to include new materials in the library, typically it falls into 4 areas of main. Number one, degree of innovation. So is this a brand new technology that has never existed before, or is it a significant enough improvement on technology? Perhaps that's further along the commercial readiness scale, better production processes. Perhaps it's a better hand feel. So certainly we're looking for degree of innovation. We're looking for sustainable materials, of course, and I'll show you what sustainability means here in just a minute. We're looking for materials that have multiple industry potential. We want to find a material that could be used in footwear, but also in furniture, a material that could be used in packaging, but also in interior design, a material that had been used in automotive, but also in pocketbooks. So, that type of value is where we really see a lot of clients coming to Material ConneXion to try to find materials from outside their traditional supplier network. We're trying to find materials that are certainly commercially available, and 90% of the library is commercially available to some degree. And then lastly, relevance, are these materials that anybody would even want to see or work with? And so each month we'll gather up all the samples that have been submitted and vote on with our researchers, which materials are best in class, and then we'll include those here in the library. And as I said, all the suppliers here are aware that they're in the platform. Now, once the materials come into the site, you can see here you have a couple different options for how you might be able to navigate. Up at the top is a keyword search. Here you could search by a type of material. It could be an application like packaging. I did a search for edible cups for a client recently. I have ski boots here. There's a very interesting material in the database that is actually made out of recycled ski boots that they're using to turn it into a filament that can be 3D printed for other designs, which is pretty cool. You can come on in and also browse by country of origin. So if you wanted to see if like, oh, maybe we have any materials that are being produced in Israel, we can scroll on down. We do have about 50 materials here at Israeli offices and manufacturing. You can come a little bit further down, processing. Perhaps students or teachers alike would know like, oh, I want to blow mold something, or hey, I really want to injection mold laminate. I'm going to print on a material. I want to thermoform it. You can very quickly find materials that can be used within those existing components. Sustainability. And I told you that's a big area for us. Now, Material ConneXion doesn't take a stance to say this is the best way to achieve sustainability is working with waste content, or the best way to achieve sustainability is plastic free. When we speak with clients, they each have their own sustainable goals, and it's our job to really understand what those goals are and help steer them towards the best solutions possible given those parameters. Now, some clients will come to us with maybe sustainability goals we don't necessarily agree will have the biggest impact. Some of them have very well thought out and defined, targets, and we certainly are happy to help them with that. But when we get into things like LCAs, carbon calculations, that's more of a consulting project. You won't be able to find too many databases in the world that publish publicly or even privately behind a paywall the data that you would need to draft an LCA on their materials. Typically that's something that you have to get into a conversation directly with those suppliers with, and we have that details for you here as well. So looking a little bit further, when we look at sustainability in the database, we can browse by things like biodegradable materials, compostable, are they durable, easily recyclable, lightweight, certainly lower carbon footprint, non-toxic, made of recycled content, renewable content, waste content. You can come a little bit further down. You can also browse by things like applications, whether that be you're looking for materials like apparel, bed linens, ceiling materials, commercial interiors, materials like used in countertops, fixtures, footwear, home appliances. We have materials in insulation and packaging, lighting, certainly mattresses. We mentioned packaging already, residential interior, sports equipment. So really anything you can imagine, we have a material for. If you want to do a search by application, I would suggest doing it up at the top to get a better result. Also, furthermore down the line, under the feel of the material, you can browse by maybe if it's soft to the touch, if it's smooth, if it's skin-like, perhaps it's warm or cool to the touch. Surface texture, is it a glossy finish, perhaps a matte finish? Trying to find transparent materials. Now we're getting into a little bit more of the performance area of fire resistance. Is it highly fire resistant? Is it high color fastness? Is it highly wear resistant? Sound absorption? It doesn't get into the specific performance data here. This is just a quick way to sort. Once we get into a material page, I'll show you in just a second where you can get some more high level data. So as we come through the site, you will obviously start narrowing down the results on the left-hand side. Ultimately, you'll click on a material to learn more about it. This is a pretty cool material that recently came in the database. It's actually an algae-based leather. So it's a leather alternative being made from algae. And so this material, you can see we have very nice high quality images that accompany every listing in the database. We do all of our own photography. You can see we have a nice technical description of the material. It's going to let us know precisely, the content of the material, the process with which it's made. Then we're going to get into some more physical properties in the description. It's going to give you some testing information. I believe they have here's probably some tensile strength, tear resistance, abrasion testing data. They have, let's see here, textile is currently undergoing an LCA. So we'll have that data certainly in the future. And then lastly, we always get into applications. And this material is being currently explored for an automotive application. You can quickly at the bottom browse sustainability features, processing. You can stitch this material, customization options, existing applications. It's been used for furniture, accessories, interior walls, as we had mentioned. It's currently undergoing testing for automotive as well. And then lastly, and this is certainly the most important section I want to highlight, manufacturer contact details. Now, if students, faculty, anybody on campus wants to get their own samples, if you have technical questions beyond the information that you can gather here on our website, or even going to their website, or if, hopefully one day you want to make a purchase of the material for use in your projects, all those conversations happen offline. Same with Nike, same with Chanel, same with Adidas, when they come into the site, they find the material they want to connect with. You reach directly out via these contacts. Now, if there's a phone number listed, I often hear from students and faculty that telephone is the best way to get someone out, get in touch with these various suppliers. Manufacturer willingness to send samples, in an academic setting, it varies case by case. I do think that some samples may have a fee just because they may not be cheap materials to make. Others that they're more than happy to send it for free. Again, like it really depends on the manufacturer, on the type of material, and definitely be persistent. That's the biggest thing I'd say is if you want to get a sample, if you want to get in touch, be persistent. Don't just send one email. Oh, didn't hear back. That's going to be that. 3 emails, 4 emails sometimes. You will get a response certainly, but we're not the only ones reaching out, and certainly just don't give up after a single communication attempt. So that's how you get in touch. This is definitely the most important section on the page. You can also save these pages as PDFs right up here at the top, the down arrow. If you were to give that a click, you'd be able to download this page as a PDF. And if you've created your account with the methods I had shown before, then that is clicking sign in, register using the school email domain where you put your own first and last name in, and then submitting that information. You can also save materials to your individual account. And to do that, you can hit save right here. It's going to give you the option if you want to bookmark or create a new board. Bookmarking it just means like saving a material like you would any website. It just flags the material to come back later. You'll see where that is in just a second. Alternatively, to make a new board, and maybe it's Shankar Spring 2025, you can hit create. Now you'll see it'll populate itself on the board here. You can click that board. Now save it to the board. Of course, it's already been flagged under bookmarks. You could take that one off or leave it on, up to you. Hit save. Now it says save to board. Now these saved material boards are going to live right here under workspace. So if you click on workspace, first up will be the flagged materials, the bookmarked materials. Sometimes people just see a material they like. It's not really assigned to a specific project yet. They can flag it. It'll appear here in the bookmarks. You'll see it down here at the bottom. Now, alternatively, if you created a board like I did, you hit the toggle switch over to boards. And then here you click on the boards you created, and you're going to have a couple different actions you can take from these saved materials. Imagine it's a group project. Imagine it's you're identifying a list of materials that are interesting in a certain category. Well, from this list, you can do 2 things. You can either hit invite, which at this point you can put any of your colleagues' email addresses, or if you know what their usernames are, I should say, if you put their username here, because not everyone will have an active email associated, you can hit send to them, and then they'll be able to see this exact same list under their own account they've created. Or the other action you can hit is export, and you can actually download the list as an Excel spreadsheet. So here it's a way to take that list offline and work directly with the materials. Maybe you want to add your own columns with your own notes, your own testing data perhaps. So that'll live up here under actions and then export. That's the database overall. As I said, it's updated on a monthly basis. When it comes time to searching the database, I always recommend keeping the search very broad at the beginning. If you want to work with a metal or a glass, we also have categories up at the top of the page. You can use those to very quickly narrow down, maybe it's polymer or natural-based material. Process is anything from like 3D printing, additive manufacturing, new methods of production. Could be like color changing technologies. You could find those here as well. In the search field, keep it broad. Don't be super specific. If you wanted to find like algae leather, I wouldn't, of course it would come up, but maybe algae leather is a bad example. If you want to find a biodegradable textile, don't necessarily search biodegradable textiles. I would put textiles in the search bar, then click on sustainability, and then click on biodegradable. And that'll pull up all the biodegradable textiles, because the search function's not as advanced, sophisticated as maybe like using a Google search, where like Google can predict what you're looking for before you even hit search on it, and they already give you the exact results. Here you may need to, again, keep it high level at the top, the category you're looking for, the application, the type of material, and then try to refine further on the left-hand side. And that's the database in a quick nutshell. However, as I said earlier in the call, this isn't the entire subscription, because if you've created your account, like I showed you, up here under Insights, this is going to launch our content site. And on the content side of the business, this is where we're publishing bi-monthly trend reports. Here we're doing recaps of global material trade shows. What were the key takeaways, the key trends that we learned about? So like you can see here, went to the Northeast Materials Show in Boston recently. We have a recap of ISPO in Munich, CES, the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas that happened recently. You can read top materials of the month here. The site's searchable. So if you had a topic you were interested in, and maybe that topic was packaging, for example, and I put packaging in the search bar. Of course, it helps to hit search. Here you'll be able to pull, you can find any number of articles that we've already written as it relates to the topic. And that could be looking at things like, a packaging innovations report, a report on what's new in bio-based packaging, a look at interactive packaging technologies, sustainable packaging, 3D printing, and how that's disrupting the packaging space. Another area I always like to recommend under content type, scroll it on down to trend reports. This is where all of the reports will live in. As I said, published every other month, 6 times a year. I would encourage everyone to go back and read each and every one of them, because each one is really providing incredible insights into the different materials and trends and technologies that are emerging all around the world, and certainly across all industries, and each one with a new topic. I downloaded in advance of the call an issue all about sustainability. And one of the great things about the library and the access to these reports is that it can show you both materials from the database that you can work with directly, or finished products that are emerging in the marketplace that you can also be inspired by. And that's things like, it's carbon smart wood on the right-hand side. This is a material in the library. It's a wood that's been created by taking trees that had fallen in urban settings and then upcycling them to create furniture and decking. We have things that aren't in the library. Like this is always really cool, the multifunctional jacket. It's actually a jacket where you can unzip an antenna. That's what the gray piece coming out the back is. You unzip that antenna, it can attract water molecules in the air and funnel those molecules of water into a container that you can actually drink. And then the jacket itself is the orange piece. It unzips and you can actually create like a tent with it. So it unzips into a shelter, which is really cool. There's also things in this report from September that is the bottled circularity. This is a juice bottle that's been developed in Sweden, I believe. The juice bottle, you can actually eat the bottle when you're done drinking the juice. Now, this is an in-development technology. It's not commercialized yet, but again, it's something we want to bring to our clients' attention. We have the breath, which is a textile that actually absorbs pollutant molecules in the air that would create a healthier environment just through that material process. We have bio-based alternatives to standard PVC vinyl records. This is also another emerging technology that's starting to appear on the shelves in limited quantities. I think Radiohead recently did a partnership with them to create, or maybe it was Tom York specifically, not the whole band, to make their vinyl records on the bio-based alternative. We can look a little bit further. We have sneaker sole, that this material is in the library. You can look it up. I think it's called Gumshoe. They collected used chewing gum in I believe it was in the UK around London, and then sterilized it, made a brand new material that's being used in the sole of a sneaker. Pretty interesting, kind of funky. This watch on the left-hand side, it's actually made from upcycled Nespresso capsules. They turned it into a watch. So those are some pretty cool technologies that you can learn about in the library. And then, we'll also get into different colors, different finishes, different keywords that you can read all about as well. This is a graphic heavy image, might take a second to come up. So that's kind of like an overview of the Material ConneXion site in a nutshell. As I said, up this whole website, the database updated every month on the 1st of each month. You can log in and read all about new materials. The insight side is updated on a monthly basis with the trend reports coming bi-monthly as well. Happy to answer any questions you all may have, with the caveat that I am not a material scientist myself. I have a team of PhD researchers I work with, so they're the ones who are doing all the research into materials, but happy to answer any questions you may have that do fall into my wheelhouse.
Okay, Michael, so overwhelming, quite amazing, and
Thank you.
I have maybe the first question, just to give some kind of orientation. With other design schools, did you like hold any special activities so far?
I know that there are schools that, their projects, they come into the library and the project is find a sample, connect with them. Well, find a material, connect with the supplier, get a sample, and then make a product or design like an interior space, depending, of course, on what their curriculum is, with that material. So that's one project I know of. I'm not like fully versed necessarily in all the school projects happening around the library, but that is a common one that I hear when schools come to the office. It's to find a sample and then have the students create a product or design an interior space with that material. Right. Yeah. If anyone has trouble getting online, you can always direct them to me. And I'll email everybody the registration steps after this call if I can reply all to that invitation. And then you could certainly share that with anyone else. There are no limits to the number of users I would mention, so you can create as many accounts as you like. Everybody at the university would have access, all students, all faculty, anybody who's like authorized on your IP network could also access the database as well. If they're on the Wi-Fi, they'd be able to pull it up.
Okay. Any other questions, guys?
I would like to ask a question.
Sure.
The site, first of all, seems really amazing, phenomenal. As you have said, pretty overwhelming also, but it seems like a resource as opposed to a product, which is how my impression of it was initially. For example, if I were to need a material with specific material specs, a material that requires specific tensile or fuzz specs, do you have any consulting services, or would I need to make the research on my own?
Yeah, so we do have consulting here, as I had mentioned, and you can get tensile strength, excuse me, from the description of the material, and you could certainly get that information directly from the suppliers as well. It's just, yeah, the consulting's typically done more on the professional side. It's not like a cheap service by any stretch. So like, it's unlikely in my 6 years I've been here, I think we've done like 2 consulting projects for universities. So it's not like something that you're gonna necessarily engage us with. I would say, find the material based on the other parameters. If they don't include tensile strength in the database description and you go to their website and they don't find it, you have to connect with the suppliers individually. So, it's certainly it's a great tool for inspiration, to inspire, to learn from, but to get the specific data, if it's not in the description of the material, like we saw it on the Rovoltech, they gave us the tensile strength, but not every supplier is necessarily going to be as forthcoming in their listing. You have to just connect with them directly to get that information.
I see. Yeah, because I know it's usually kept very close to the chest. So
that's why, we give you those contacts. And if you have like a technical contact, that's usually a great person to reach out to get that.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
it was very informative. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was a great question. And I certainly appreciate your participation in that. Helpful for everyone, I'm sure. And I also wanted to show the library itself. I had unblurred my screen. So, we create these in-person library experiences, and, we have a lot of schools that build their own libraries, and certainly it's for an added fee. But, in our library, we have about close to 1,000 materials on the floor. We organize them by different areas of interest. Like we have a whole section on building technologies here. We could walk down, we have circular building materials. I have a whole section nearby on wellness infused materials, plant-based leather alternatives as well. So all the different rows, all the different topics that we looked at in the database, we also have physical samples. That's why I said, the only request we have for the suppliers on the site, we don't charge them a fee to be here, is for them to send us these physical samples. And then if anyone's traveling, around the globe and they want to see samples in person, we're always happy to help set up those visits to the library so you can see these great technologies, not just on a screen, but also, physically in touch and interact with the samples as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Michael, I have a quick question.
Yes,
Thank you
please.
very much for a fascinating talk.
Zvi, perhaps you would like to introduce yourself?
I think you're on mute.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me
Yeah.
now? I'm Zvi Koren and the Department of Chemical Engineering, actually I'm Professor Emeritus. But one of my claims to fame is that I taught at Cooper Union for 14 years. So I'm familiar. My question is, where exactly in New York City? What you have in the background is fantastic.
Thank you.
Where exactly in New York City are you located?
We are at the corner just in off of 40th Street and 7th Avenue. So right in Midtown. We're a few blocks north of Penn Station, just a little bit east of Port Authority, and a quick shuttle ride from Grand Central. So if anyone's coming in,
Yes. Okay.
yeah, easily accessible.
Again, very good. Fascinating. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Cooper Union's a subscribers to the library as well, if you weren't aware. And we do get their
Right. I
students.
saw that in the list that
Mhm.
in the list that you had. I saw that. Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, guys? Friends, colleagues? Okay, so if that's it, I would like to thank you on the behalf of our staff and our members. And I hope this will be like a starting point for a long-lasting collaboration between Shankar and Material ConneXion.
Yes, absolutely. And I just put my email address in the chat as well. If anyone has specific questions about the site, just feel free to shoot me a note. Always happy to assist.
Okay. Thank you very much, and best regards from Ramat Gan, Israel.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's wonderful working with all of you, and certainly excited for a long relationship to come.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, Michael.
My pleasure. Bye.